Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Fran. I create content on self-love, conscious living, personal growth, and everything I've learned on my own healing journey. So I started Binge when I was a teenage girl, and which later developed into bulimia for about 15 years. So this is a topic I have been personally committed to through self-education and professional guidance. A short disclaimer, this video is not for diagnosis for bulimia and anorexia, because occasional binge eat or emotional eat does not mean that you have bulimia. Firstly, the intensity is different, the size of the binge, the food consumed in each binge, and the duration of the binge is different. And secondly, the frequency is different. Most importantly, the triggers vary greatly. So if you feel out of control in binge eating, I strongly advise you to go and talk to a professional. Today I wanted to discuss in depth why we binge eat or emotional eat, because during my personal treatment I learned that it's essential to know the triggers so that we can prevent it from happening before the onset and soothe intensity during the onset and eventually tackle the triggers one by one. It's a very complex topic because there are so many factors involved in one binge eating episode, and for each person there are various factors affecting and intertwining and enhancing one another. I'll only talk about the most common ones, and I know I wasn't able to cover it in one video, so I'm going to divide it into two videos, and this is the part one. So the most common one was diet-induced, and the most common triggers involved in this process are: the first one is when we eat that bad food, the food that we don't allow ourselves to eat and normally we would avoid. And when we eat that, it's really likely to trigger the binge. The second one is that when we're unable to deal with the feeling and thoughts of failing to meet our dietary goal and the fear of weight gain. Talking about diet-induced, I personally know a lot of people who started out just like me in their teenage years, because that's the age when we become very self-conscious about our gender, sexuality, body image and stuff. And a lot of teenage girls may try to blend into that popular circle. So they use dieting and fasting to manipulate their body image into a socially desirable one. Especially now that social media has pervaded so deeply into our lives, including the teenagers. They are exposed to unrealistic beauty standards and social comparisons at such a young age. It's really stressful situation, and it's a really scary thing to stand out, to be different at all. Taking myself as an example, I started dieting at the age of 12, the first year into high school, because I've witnessed how popular girls get the privilege, this attention from classmates and teachers, and it just made me very crave for attention, especially that I don't get enough positive feedback from home. And I just had the general feeling that everything I do causes criticism and everything I say is wrong. And I just feel like there's something wrong with me, which made me crave for attention even more. So one thing I noticed in common from those popular girls, they are the skinny ones. They have the smaller faces. They wear exposed clothing or extremely tight clothing that accentuate their body shape. And I just feel that I need to be skinny and I need to be pretty to be good enough, to be wanted and chosen and validated by people. And I'm sure a lot of people can't agree on this, that it's very dangerous when we put our self-worth completely on how we look and how much we weigh, because those are external stuff. And everybody has their own opinion, and everybody has the power to judge us, to decide if we're good enough or not. So it's very likely that we become self-loathing when we get that negative feedback from people. So we could become very closed off and isolated. Diet and binge eating cycle can be easily induced. There are days we can diet successfully, like we can stay away from those food we deem as bad. We can successfully only eat healthy food. But on the days when we fail to self-control, when we fail to meet the restriction we imposed on us, when we eat that extra piece of cake, the binge would begin. Large amount of food consumed in a short period of time, and with this overwhelming sense of loss of control. And afterwards, some of us may engage in behaviors like self-induced vomiting, laxatives, overly exercise or extreme dieting or fasting just to offset the calories we consumed in the binge. As I've mentioned, there are two types of triggers for diet-induced binge. The first one is when we eat that extra food we didn't plan on. When we eat that certain food we deem as bad that we disallow ourselves from having. As I was working on a bulimia recovery journal, I wrote everything down, like everything I ate in a day and my mood at that time, including emotions, feelings, and incidents that trigger my urges to binge. And after a couple months, I discovered a clear and shocking pattern, which is normally when I have my binges, right before it, I have consumed a certain type of bad food. The food that I normally don't allow myself to eat. For example, for me, it was generally carbs. So when I eat that extra donut, when I eat that extra piece of cake, I would go full-blown binge 99% of the time. And the second trigger is a feeling of losing control and failing to meet our dietary goal. When we feel that we aren't able to meet our calorie goal on a specific day, we would feel like failures. We would actually view ourselves as lacking of willpower and self-control. For example, when I eat the extra piece of cake, which wasn't planned on today, and I would feel out of control. This sense of out of control causes overwhelming anxiety for us because we feel that we failed today. And we feel like our whole day is going to be screwed because of this cake. Physically, we would literally feel fat. We feel like we put on a couple of pounds already. We feel like our stomach gonna bulge out and our face gonna get bigger. And mentally, we feel that it's out of control already. We fear that we're gonna keep on putting weight like this and ruin our whole life. With this strong sense of low self-worth and self-loathing, we would completely let go of today's dietary goal. And what it causes, it's going to cause a binge. It's going to cause a full-blown binge. It's not like we don't know that one piece of cake is so much better than the full-blown binge, but it's just that we cannot control it. This black or white thinking just made us go on autopilot. During binges, we normally seek to eat in a very private place from seen by people because we're scared that they might see us and view us as weird. For example, we would probably eat in a tiny corner of our room in the dark, and we would use entertainment methods like watching TV drama or scrolling down social media feeds to numb ourselves, to feel, to think, to realize how much we're eating and how out of control this episode was. And normally it was afterwards we started to become very scared because recalling that unconscious episode of eating with that stomach pain, that our stomach could have been blown up by all the food we stuffed in it. And then we feel shameful, then we blame ourselves, then we got stuck in this low energy state. Lastly, I will talk about how dieting mentality keeps us in a loop. The most dangerous trap is when we define ourselves as successful, when we successfully meet our dietary goal, calorie goal, when we only eat healthy food, or else we see ourselves as failures. Self-trust and confidence are gradually eroded in the process because we take instructions from whoever, like personal trainers and diet experts, external people other than ourselves, because they provide us these success stories, they provide us this shining guarantee, the sense of staying in control versus the out of control feeling that we feel in our lives. To be specific, firstly, dieting mentality means restriction in food types and even elimination of entire food groups. When we don't allow ourselves to eat certain type of food, it's like we're asking ourselves to not think about the elephant. I used to not have appetite for sweets at all, but when I was on diets, I would think about like cream and puff every day before bed. I would add tons of this food to my shopping cart just to prepare for the next binge. Even though nowadays a lot of people try to take meal replacements to control the calorie intake every day. But when you only eat certain type of food while eliminating the diversity of it, you could still feel mentally unsatisfied. You ever feel like you eat tons of healthy stuff, but you still think about the evil food and you still are prone to binge eat? Secondly, Dieting mentality causes social avoidance. It causes us to be isolated, depressed, and more prone to binge eating. We would avoid certain social occasions like big get-together. We would turn down our friends' invite because deep down we know that under social occasions it's very likely for us to binge eating once we had that like one piece of like bad food, right? Some of us even go further to save up the calories for the big get-together. For example, I used to starve myself for a week for that Sunday get-together, but normally during the middle of the week I would start binging uncontrollably. We would also avoid some social occasions where it's likely for us to have some certain degree of body exposing, like that beach party and stuff, because we're self-conscious and unhappy about how we look with our body image. So we would exaggerate our body flaws while over-amplifying other seemingly desirable traits. Hence, we become lonely, isolated, and we try to chase away this depressing feeling by food. Alright everyone, thanks for sitting through this video. In this video, I talked about the most common one, the diet-induced binge eating type, and I hope that it will provide some insights for you to dig into your binge eating trigger and tackle them. In my next video, I will continue to talk about this topic on some other common triggers for binge eating. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.